Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are focusing on what is really one of the most competitive economic battles currently raging in India.
Yeah.
It's the fight for the future of technology, of investment, and, of dominance. We're zooming in specifically on the state of Maharashtra.
Right, and it's a fascinating case. It's like the heavyweight champion trying to defend its title.
Okay.
It's facing challengers who are, let's say, leaner and perhaps more focused. I'm talking, of course, about Bengaluru and Hyderabad.
The usual suspects.
Exactly. The fact is, Maharashtra is the current incumbent. It has, for a long time, firmly maintained its lead in attracting foreign capital. It holds the top spot for foreign direct investment inflows.
And the numbers on that are pretty staggering.
They really are. We're talking about a massive 31% share of the nation's total. And that's just between October 2019 and September 2024.
31% is truly dominant.
Yeah.
I mean, that really establishes it as the financial gateway for the entire nation.
Precisely. And it's not just in, established finance or manufacturing. The startup ecosystem confirms this dominance. As of the start of 2025, specifically January 23rd, the state boasts the highest share of recognized startups at 24% nationally.
Wow, so nearly 1 in 4.
Nearly 1 in 4 recognized new ventures is either headquartered or operating within Maharashtra.
So we have the current leader, and it's backed by some very hard data on FDI and startups. But, those numbers are backward-looking. They reflect past success.
That's the key point.
We know the competition is relentless. They're throwing massive policy and infrastructure money at this challenge. So the core question for you, the listener, and really the mission for this deep dive is Maharashtra doing enough right now in 2025 to maintain this hard-earned lead?
And how are they doing it?
Exactly. And specifically, how is the state addressing these critical pressure points in areas like, say, physical infrastructure, proactive policy, and the rapidly changing demands of talent?
To answer that, we've synthesized a whole stack of sources. We're looking at governmental actions throughout 2025. And this isn't just about, glossy announcements. It's about implementation.
Right, the follow-through.
We're looking at state policy updates, focusing on major legislative changes like decriminalization, the creation of entirely new policy frameworks. We're also looking at direct crisis management in response to infrastructure failures in Pune.
Which we'll definitely get to.
And then these massive long-term investment plans for the Mumbai metropolitan region, all while trying to strategically align with national deep tech initiatives.
Okay, let's unpack this, and let's start with what is arguably the least glamorous, but I think most foundational piece of any competitive economic strategy.
I know where you're going with this.
The simplification of the rule book for business. Because if it's too hard to operate, companies will just go elsewhere, no matter how good your roads are.
Absolutely.
When companies decide where to locate or where to expand, they look beyond the shiny office towers, right? They look at the sheer friction.
The bureaucratic overhead.
Yeah, the compliance costs of just doing business.
Yeah.
And 2025 saw a highly significant move by Maharashtra to address that friction with a major policy shift.
That's right. The state ordinance that was approved is directly modeled on the center's Jan Vishwas Act of 2023.
Okay, so it's part of a national trend.
It is, but the objective here is crystal clear, and it's a real philosophical shift. It's to simplify compliance across the board, modernize these really outdated regulations that often snag businesses in red tape, and just promote a broader philosophy of ease of living and ease of doing business.
This sounds great in a press release. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But what does simplifying compliance actually mean for, the everyday manager on the ground?
It means removing the threat of criminal prosecution for minor, often technical infractions.
So getting rid of the fear factor.
Yeah, exactly. For decades, many state laws contained penal provisions, sometimes even jail terms, for procedural violations that were, let's be honest, administrative rather than criminal in nature. This created a culture of fear, it encouraged the Inspector Raj, and it certainly raised compliance costs.
The goal then is just to say, look, we want you to comply, but we don't want to threaten you with handcuffs over a filing error.
Precisely. And this ordinance isn't just theory. It's not just an idea. It targets specific legal instruments, many of which are decades old.
Okay, so what is the concrete impact on the IT and related service sectors?
The ordinance seeks to amend or completely remove provisions within 7 state acts across 5 administrative departments.
7 acts, 5 departments.
And these are critical areas of interaction between the government and businesses: labor, revenue, finance, medical education and drugs, and public health. The breadth of this shows the intended impact is truly cross-sectoral.
Can you zero in on the direct relevance for the IT sector? I mean, they're often most concerned with labor flexibility and employment regulations.
Absolutely. For the IT sector, the most direct relevance is the proposed removal, decriminalization, or rationalization of minor penal provisions under key labor laws. We are talking about modernization efforts in a few key areas.
Lay 'em out for us.
First, the Maharashtra Industrial Relations Act of 1946, a foundational piece of legislation. Second, the Maharashtra Recognition of Trade Unions and Prevention of Unfair Labor Practices Act of 1971. And third, and this one is really crucial for IT offices,
Yes.
the Maharashtra Shops and Establishments Act of 2017. This governs working hours, holidays, general employment conditions. Very, very relevant.
So removing minor penal provisions from these three specific decades-old labor laws is a massive signal to the IT industry.
Yeah.
But if you're taking away the punishment, does the source material address any concerns that this could, potentially weaken employee protections in favor of the corporation?
That's a crucial point, and it needs some nuance. The shift is not to eliminate compliance requirements. It's to change the mechanism of enforcement.
Okay, so how does that work?
The focus moves from criminal sanctions, which, let's be honest, often led to judicial backlogs and were rarely truly enforced, to monetary penalties and administrative actions.
So a fine instead of a court case.
In essence, yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of policy shift sends an undeniable signal. The government is attempting to reposition itself from being a strict punitive regulator to becoming a facilitator.
Right.
The ultimate goal is minimizing procedural friction, which is paramount in a fast-moving competitive sector like IT. It's an institutional attempt to cut down on compliance costs without eliminating the underlying rules.
Understood. So it's a move toward administrative efficiency, not just deregulation.
Yeah.
Okay, moving from that general ease of business to more targeted high-growth investment, the state is rolling out a much more comprehensive policy framework.
Certainly, Maharashtra has adopted a holistic, an integrated approach. They realize IT growth can't happen in a vacuum.
It depends on everything else around it.
It relies on smooth supply chains, movement of people, attractive destinations. So they've layered multiple strategic policies on top of the existing industrial policy from 2019.
Here are some of those.
The Logistics Policy 2024, the Tourism Policy 2024, the Export Promotion Policy 2023, and most relevantly for us, the new IT and ITES policy from 2023. It's an attempt to create an entire ecosystem of support.
And sitting right in the middle of this multi-pronged approach is the focus on generating that next wave of startups and deep innovation.
Precisely. And that needs a dedicated strategic framework. The core innovation strategy is housed within the Maharashtra Startup Entrepreneurship and Innovation Policy of 2025. This policy recognizes that startups require specialized, non-bureaucratic support.
And to make that happen, they've appointed a specific body to lead it.
Yes. To ensure streamlined, efficient execution, the state has designated the Maharashtra State Innovation Society, or MSINS, as the nodal authority.
What does that mean in practical terms for MSINS?
It means MSINS is the single point of accountability. They are responsible for the planning, implementation, and evaluation of all related schemes.
So no more getting bounced between different government departments.
That's the idea. This centralization ensures synergy across departments, whether it's planning, finance, or higher education, so an entrepreneur doesn't get lost in administrative silos when they're seeking support or funding.
One aspect that's particularly important for, equitable growth is leveraging digital infrastructure to support entrepreneurs no matter where they are in the state.
Right, leveling the playing field between Mumbai, Pune, and everywhere else.
So what specific tools are being pushed?
The policy makes the expansion of cutting-edge digital infrastructure a primary mandate. Key initiatives are ambitious and future-focused. They include the expansion of high-speed internet across Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, the implementation of cloud platforms for registered startups, and the creation of AI sandboxes.
Could you just briefly define what an AI sandbox is for the listener?
Absolutely. Think of a sandbox as a safe, isolated, and highly controlled environment. It's a place where a startup can test and develop new AI applications and models using real or simulated data.
Without breaking anything in the real world.
Without risking security breaches or disrupting live systems, exactly. These sandboxes are crucial because they lower the entry barrier for small teams to experiment with what are, frankly, very expensive computational resources and data sets.
So it's about providing equitable access.
Equitable and scalable access to tools, services, and knowledge networks, irrespective of a startup's geographical location within Maharashtra. That's the overarching aim.
And for these promising startups that get established, what does the financial assistance look like? I imagine it can't just be a blanket grant.
No, it's designed to be highly targeted. It's assessed based on a startup's genuine potential and demonstrable market impact. They are eligible for tailored financial assistance. Crucially, the incubators that support these ventures are specifically mandated to provide seed funding.
And that early stage capital is just vital.
It's everything. It helps cover initial operational costs, develop a minimum viable product, hire initial talent, and crucially, scale their market entry. And the funding is tied to performance milestones, so it's results-oriented.
It's also particularly noteworthy that the state is dedicating specific resources to women entrepreneurs. This moves beyond just general inclusion to dedicated policy support.
That's correct. They formalized this with the Punyashlok Ahilya Devi Holkar Women's Startup Scheme, which was launched in 2024. This is a very precise financial mechanism.
Yeah, how's it work?
The scheme offers financial assistance ranging from a minimum of 1 lakh rupees up to a maximum of 25 lakhs. The specific amount is determined by the startup's existing turnover and its potential.
And there's a social equity component built in, too.
Yes, a deep commitment to it. 25% of the total allocated funds under this policy are reserved specifically for women entrepreneurs from marginalized and economically disadvantaged sections. It reinforces a commitment to both economic empowerment and social inclusion simultaneously.
So we've established that on paper, the policy framework is incredibly detailed, ambitious, and focused on future tech. It's trying to remove all these legislative hurdles.
It is.
But policy, no matter how good, runs headfirst into reality when physical infrastructure fails. And that takes us directly to the pressure point in Pune. Hinjawadi in Pune is more than just an office park. It's really the symbolic heart of Maharashtra's secondary tech hub. It was established way back in 2000.
A long time ago.
And it's a massive employment center. We're talking between 5 and 7 lakh people. But despite its status, Hinjawadi is currently, and the quote is, grappling with numerous infrastructure problems. And in 2025, the situation became a literal crisis point.
The reports from the field are genuinely alarming, and this isn't a new problem. For a full decade, employees have struggled with systemic failures.
Like what?
Hours-long traffic snarls that make a 2-kilometer commute take 90 minutes, persistent power outages that force data migration and disrupt business continuity, and most visibly, extreme waterlogging.
I saw some of the pictures of that.
Just last month, key roads in the IT hub went completely underwater after heavy rain, leaving thousands of employees stranded for hours. The sheer scale of that disruption becomes an economic threat.
When you have hundreds of thousands of highly paid IT professionals facing that kind of daily ordeal, their productivity and morale must just collapse.
It absolutely does. And that human cost translates into a massive business liability. The threat is real, and it became public. Several established, large IT companies are publicly warning that they may be forced to relocate their Hinjawadi operations.
And they're naming names.
They are. Specifically to competing tech centers that offer reliable infrastructure, like Bengaluru or Hyderabad. This is the nightmare scenario for the Maharashtra government, losing established, high-value jobs due to basic urban service failures.
This external threat immediately forced a very public, very high-stakes response from the government.
They certainly did. Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar conducted a highly publicized early morning inspection on July 26th. This wasn't a quiet bureaucratic meeting. This was political crisis management in the full glare of the media.
Right.
He publicly chided officials for the long-standing failures and directed immediate, unambiguous action against anyone, individuals, or other government departments obstructing infrastructure work.
And he didn't mince words.
Not at all. He stated the risks explicitly, and I'm quoting here, "If things do not improve, Hinjawadi IT Park will move to Bengaluru and Hyderabad."
That quote is absolutely critical because it acknowledges the gravity of the competition and the immediate flight risk. He even committed to revisiting the site every 15 days.
Right, to stalk progress.
But isn't this kind of political high-stakes crisis management where the deputy CM has to personally intervene every 2 weeks? Isn't that a sign of a systemic failure rather than a sustainable long-term fix?
That raises a very important question about governance models. This scrambling reaction clearly shows the intense vulnerability of even established decades-old IT hubs.
It's fragile.
Very. It highlights the critical connection between state-level economic competition and basic, reliable urban services. When the sheer volume of employees reaches 500,000, basic traffic and drainage issues stop being local irritations. They become massive economic liabilities.
So while the intervention might provide a short-term fix,
It provides short-term focus, yes. But a true structural fix requires empowering local urban bodies to manage and fund infrastructure autonomously, rather than relying on top-down, crisis-driven political pressure. But that political pressure does ensure immediate action, which is what the industry demanded.
So Pune is fighting fires, trying to repair a decade of neglect. But simultaneously, the Mumbai metropolitan region, the MNR, is undergoing an unprecedented, aggressive, and highly planned expansion.
A completely different story.
Let's shift focus to MMR. It includes Mumbai, Mumbai Suburban, Thane, Palghar, and Rigad districts. This area is the economic engine, currently employing 2.4 million people in knowledge services.
The scale of the MMR plan is staggering. It's a deliberate strategy to secure the next few decades of growth and really consolidate Maharashtra's economic dominance. The region is seeing over $50 billion in investments for ongoing and planned infrastructure projects.
$50 billion.
To put this in perspective, state government agencies alone have projects worth $30 to $35 billion. That's roughly 240 to 280K crore under implementation as of FY23. And the key is the target, prioritizing completion by 2030.
What are the biggest physical projects driving this regional transformation? Because $50 billion suggests truly transformational connectivity.
It does. We are talking about projects designed to reshape the entire region's physical geography. Key initiatives include a massive 337-kilometer metro rail network.
That alone will fundamentally alter everything.
Commuting patterns, real estate value, everything. There are crucial upgrades to the suburban rail system. You also have the completion of coastal roads and the highly ambitious Alibag-Virar multimodal corridor.
That multimodal corridor connecting the extreme north, Virar, to the south, Alibag, seems like a key strategic piece. What's its significance?
It bypasses the traditional congested center of Mumbai. It creates a seamless high-speed connection for both people and freight, linking major nodes outside the core city.
So it's about decentralizing.
The whole effort is aimed at creating an excellent, reliable connectivity base that supports the outward migration of businesses and residents. This kind of infrastructure is essential to prevent the MMR from suffering the same kind of choked growth that is currently paralyzing Hinjawadi.
And what are the measurable economic goals tied to this infrastructural foundation? What are they hoping to achieve by 2030?
The MMR 2030 vision sets clear, aggressive economic targets. They aim for an incremental employment target of between 2.8 and 3 million new jobs in the services and knowledge sector.
And the GDP impact.
Correspondingly, they target an incremental GDP increase of $130 to $150 billion. And to achieve this, there's a recommended institutional shift, creating a dedicated Department of Services or an investment attraction department.
Why a dedicated Department of Services? Isn't that already covered by the Industrial Development Corporation?
The sources argue that traditional industrial departments are geared toward manufacturing or heavy industry. A specialized department is needed to focus specifically on attracting high-growth, modern areas like AI, startups, fintech, health, education, AVGC, and of course, data centers.
Right. These sectors have very different needs.
Completely different. Less land, more connectivity, highly specialized talent. They require customized, rapid policy responses that a general department might struggle to provide.
That makes perfect sense. The density of Mumbai proper is reaching a limit, but the strategy is to expand geographically, capitalizing on that $50 billion in infrastructure to open up new economic centers.
Exactly. The source material notes that Mumbai's growth trajectory is mirroring global models like London or New York. The adjoining city areas, particularly Thane and Navi Mumbai, have been growing much faster, a 7.9% CAGR during the FY12-20 period.
So the strategy is to capitalize on this outward movement by proactively preparing new land parcels.
That's it.
So where exactly are these new dedicated IT and services hubs being strategically developed within the MMR to absorb this growth?
The MMR master plan details 3 crucial geographical pivots, all tied to this new connectivity. First, there's the planned redevelopment of the Thane MIDC area, specifically focusing on transforming it into a specialized data center and services hub.
Okay.
Second, they are aggressively leveraging the Mumbai Trans Harbor Link, the MTHL. They are developing the MTHL Influence Area, a massive 2,000 hectares in Phase 1 by FY30 for integrated townships, R&D parks, and, critically, more data centers. Third, there is the complete development of Veracity, a 270-hectare site planned as a dedicated services district.
What's the specific focus of Veracity?
It's aimed at attracting new-age jobs, but also at globalizing Mumbai's economic presence by serving as a major MIC hub.
MBE, for the listener who might not be familiar, stands for Meetings, Incentives, Conferences, and Exhibitions.
That's right. Veracity is designed to pull in international business events, hospitality, and high-end services jobs that cluster around global airport connectivity. These are specialized efforts to attract specific high-value industries.
It's a compelling dual strategy, then. You're desperately shoring up the failing infrastructure in Pune while simultaneously aggressively building out entirely new capacity in MMR.
Yes, fighting on two fronts.
But the infrastructure challenge isn't just about roads and rails. It's about specialized digital infrastructure. And this segment brings us to arguably the most aggressive policy intervention Maharashtra has made recently, and it concerns data centers. The sheer volume of data generated by the state's economy requires enormous processing power, and the state's IT and ICE policy of 2023 has taken a radical step. It's explicitly treating data centers not as typical industrial units, but as essential services.
This is a major philosophical and regulatory shift. By elevating data centers to essential service status, akin to power or water supply, the state is signaling that the velocity of economic growth driven by digital infrastructure trumps literally everything else.
Wow.
It trumps spatial and regulatory constraints. They are prioritizing the rapid development of digital capacity above all.
And this essential services classification unlocked specific, incredibly potent incentives designed to attract massive, immediate investment. Can we run through the core mechanisms? Because they are quite radical.
They are. These incentives are designed to eliminate the two biggest friction points for any large-scale infrastructure developer, land acquisition costs and zoning battles.
Okay, so let's start with the money.
First, the financial incentive, stamp duty. There is a 100% stamp duty exemption available for purchasing land or premises for setting up a new data center or for the expansion of an existing one. This also covers conveyance, lease, everything.
Wait, 100% exemption? For a listener who doesn't deal with commercial real estate, how huge is eliminating stamp duty on high-value land? Are we talking millions or billions saved?
For a project involving hundreds of acres in the MMR or Pune, the stamp duty can easily run into the hundreds of crores. That's tens of millions of dollars or even higher. Eliminating that 100% upfront cost is an immediate and massive reduction in the capital expenditure. It is an extraordinary financial lure.
That eliminates a huge initial hurdle. What about the physical placement, the zoning flexibility?
This is the second radical move. Regarding zoning, data centers are permitted to be set up in any zone.
Any zone?
Any zone. This is a deliberate policy choice to overcome the limitations of centralized industrial parks. This includes residential zones, no development zones, and even designated green zones.
That is the ultimate example of sacrificing spatial constraints for economic velocity. Allowing a massive energy and water-intensive facility, which is essentially an industrial plant, in a residential or green zone is a radical move. It bypasses decades of careful urban planning.
It absolutely is, and the incentives continue. Thirdly, on taxation. Property tax for data centers will be levied at par with residential rates, which is significantly lower than commercial rates.
The EU reduces the operating cost for its entire life.
For the lifetime of the facility, yes. And finally, on FSI and regulations. Data centers can avail additional floor space index, allowing for higher building density, and development control regulations for things like parking norms and floor heights have been explicitly relaxed.
These policy moves are clearly aimed at attracting immediate, large-scale investment. What does the data show? Is it working?
The immediate reaction was substantial. The total intended investment for Maharashtra projects in 2024, much of it driven by this very segment, was over 1,13,000 crore rupees. That figure was the highest among selected competing states.
So the incentives are effective.
They are. And crucially, the growth is also being pushed beyond the two main hubs. In Nagpur, for example, 6 new companies have invested in the Mihan SEZ, with over 8 acres allotted for IT and digital infrastructure. MIDC is actively earmarking land parcels specifically for dedicated data center parks with prior clearances secured.
So the state is streamlining the acquisition of land and compliance to an extraordinary degree. But what is the philosophical trade-off here? Allowing these energy and water-intensive facilities into typically protected zones, this is where the long-term sustainability question has to come in.
That's the crux of it. What's fascinating is the trade-off inherent in this shift. By treating data centers like a clean utility and removing spatial constraints, they aim for investment velocity. However, a single data center uses enormous amounts of power, often equivalent to a small city,
And water.
and considerable amounts of water for cooling. Decentralizing this infrastructure, allowing it to be placed near residential or green areas, drastically shifts the burden of infrastructure management.
Pause.
Local governments are now required to enforce extremely high standards for noise mitigation, ensure reliable, massive power supply without disrupting residential lines, and guarantee environmental compliance. It risks turning a corporate facility issue into a localized public nuisance issue.
So you're trading one crisis for another.
You're trading the centralized infrastructure crisis of Hinjawadi's traffic jams for potentially localized energy, noise, and water shortages in the new decentralized neighborhoods allowed to host these centers.
That's a powerful tension baked right into the policy. Moving from large digital infrastructure to high-value human services, the state is also making a specific pitch to Global Capability Centers, or GCCs.
Exactly. And these are complex operations, not just back office support. GCCs have evolved dramatically. They are no longer just call centers. They are key enablers of digital transformation and innovation for their parent companies.
Right, providing high-value services.
Technology, finance, analytics, engineering, R&D. India is strongly positioned as a global leader here, and Maharashtra is determined to capture a larger share with its new Maharashtra Global Capability Center Policy 2025.
While Mumbai and Pune are historically important, how does Maharashtra stack up against the market leader, Bengaluru, in this specific GCC market?
Bengaluru remains the undisputed leader. It still accounts for nearly 30% of the entire GCC market, generating more than $43 billion in GCC exports.
That's a huge lead.
It is. However, Pune, along with Chennai, is gaining significant traction, often specializing in engineering and industrial R&D. This growth is driven by Pune's deep pool of engineering talent and strong industry-academia links. But Maharashtra needs its own bespoke policy to aggressively lure market share from Karnataka.
To attract the really big GCCs, the ones setting up million-square-foot facilities, the competition from other states must be fierce. What kind of incentives is Maharashtra up against?
The competition is aggressive and highly subsidized. We see states like Uttar Pradesh offering extremely aggressive, tailor-made incentives. For example, specific deals for facilities with more than 2,000 workstations can include a power discount of 1 rupee per unit for 5 years and fast-tracked approvals.
So Maharashtra's policy has to match that.
It has to be competitive against that robust, subsidized landscape. Absolutely.
For any major global GCCs setting up shop in India, there are complex financial and compliance hurdles. Beyond infrastructure, what are the key operating considerations they have to manage?
2 critical areas are corporate taxation and the structuring of their capital. First, transfer pricing, or TP, is a core, non-negotiable concern.
And for the listener, transfer pricing is basically the price charged for goods or services between related companies within a multinational group, correct?
Exactly. And GCCs are almost universally structured as limited-risk captive service providers. They perform routine support functions like IT maintenance or accounting, but they don't take on market risk, inventory risk, or credit risk. Because of this limited risk designation, they are typically remunerated on a cost-plus markup basis.
So the key operational point for the GCC is optimizing that transfer pricing to ensure their tax liability matches that limited risk designation.
Precisely. They must conduct a thorough value chain analysis to prove that they only provide routine support services, thus justifying a routine lower markup, typically 15% to 20% above cost. If tax authorities argue the GCC is performing higher intensity functions, they might warrant a higher margin, which means a higher tax liability.
So clarity and stability on that front is key to attracting investment.
It's paramount.
And what about the capital structure itself? How are they financing these massive setups in a tax-efficient way?
For long-term financing of the Indian entity, hybrid instruments are often preferred. The specific instrument often favored in GCC structuring is convertible compulsorily debentures, or CCDs.
Can you walk us through why this specific instrument is preferred?
CCDs are financial instruments that start life as debt, but are mandated to convert into equity shares at a future date. They are preferred because they are treated as debt until conversion. This allows for interest deductibility.
Meaning the interest paid is deducted from their taxable income.
Right, which makes them significantly more tax efficient in the initial setup years compared to pure equity, where dividends are taxed. It's a highly nuanced area of corporate finance designed for maximum efficiency.
So we've covered the policy engine and the infrastructure foundation, both the repair work in Poon and the massive build-out in MMR. Neither of those things matter if you don't have the people with the right skills.
The talent pipeline.
We need to talk about the talent pipeline and the state's plan for the deep tech future. The pace of technological change, particularly with the acceleration of AI, demands that the workforce evolve instantly. Maharashtra is planning an ambitious AI policy for education, employment, and cybersecurity.
And that commitment is translating into large-scale, measurable action across academic institutions. It's not just planning. There are several major initiatives already active.
It is.
The SSC NASTOM's Future Skills Prime platform is already embedded in the state, offering subsidized upskilling courses. More significantly, a partnership has been forged involving Swami Ramanan Tirtharthwada University in Nanded and a private entity called Skills Factory. This partnership is embedding the Digital 101 framework across 400 colleges.
And that partnership in Nanded is crucial because it focuses on a Tier 2 region.
Yeah.
What is the scale of the target audience?
The target is enormous, upskilling 1.5 lakh students, 150,000 future professionals with future-ready skills. This demonstrates a serious commitment to scaling digital literacy and talent readiness outside that primary Mumbai-Pune corridor.
Shifting slightly to security, the sheer volume of digital transactions means cybersecurity and public trust are paramount. How is the state handling the tech-driven threat landscape, particularly in law enforcement?
They are leaning into AI internally to fight crime. The Maharashtra AI platform, which was developed using Microsoft Foundry, represents a massive security and operational upgrade for the police force.
How does it help them in practice?
It allows them to process vast numbers of digital complaints faster, analyze complex data, and streamline investigative procedures, especially for cybercrime cases. It was first deployed in Nagpur Rural in April 2025.
And it was successful.
Its effectiveness was immediate, so much so that the government announced a rapid statewide rollout across all 1,100 police stations. This is a crucial step for maintaining trust in the digital ecosystem.
So the state is actively skilling its workforce and modernizing its law enforcement. But beyond just skilling and operational security, where is the serious research capital coming from to fuel Maharashtra's next wave of deep innovation, the stuff that happens 5-10 years from now?
This is where the crucial central government initiative comes into play, and Maharashtra's universities and companies are actively aligning with it. I'm referring to the Research Development and Innovation Scheme, or RDI scheme.
Approved by the Union Cabinet in July.
On July 1st, 2025. This scheme is the national mechanism designed to fundamentally incentivize and fund private sector R&D across the country.
And what is the scale of that incentive? Because research requires sustained patient capital.
The total outlay is a massive 1 lakh crore rupees, or about $12 billion spread over 6 years. For the first fiscal year, FY 2025-26, 20,000 crore is specifically allocated for immediate deployment.
And what's the goal?
To encourage the private sector to scale up R&D in sunrise domains, finance transformative projects that are at a higher level of technological maturity, and support the acquisition of critical technologies.
When you mention a higher level of technological maturity, what specifically are the parameters?
The scheme targets projects that are at technology readiness level 4 and above.
TRL4.
Right. TRL is a system to estimate the maturity of a technology from 1 to 9. TRL4 means the basic technology components have been integrated and verified in a lab environment. So this RDI funding is not for basic science, it's for applied research that is close to commercial viability.
That is a fundamental distinction. It's aimed at products and commercial applications, not just academic papers.
Exactly. And the structure confirms this. A significant component is the establishment of a dedicated deep tech fund of funds. This ensures sustained venture capital for specialized companies, and the overall strategic framework is set by the Anand National Research Foundation.
So the ANRF is essentially the strategic steering committee determining where this massive RDI capital will flow.
Precisely. It sets the framework, ensuring coherence. This allows Maharashtra's tech ecosystem to understand the exact technological areas the national government is prioritizing.
So what are those specific technological focus areas that Maharashtra's universities and companies should be aligning with?
The scheme explicitly targets several future-focused sectors that align perfectly with Maharashtra's existing strengths.
Go on.
Deep technology, which includes frontier areas like quantum computing, advanced robotics, and space tech. AI and its application in critical sectors like agriculture, health, and education. And thirdly, biotechnology, biomanufacturing, and pharmaceutical devices.
This RDI push essentially provides the financial backbone for the state's proposed AI policy and its general innovation policy we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
And we even see examples of this deep tech push already landing in Tier 2 cities.
Yes. This is complemented by other national initiatives like the NIDHI program. For example, Vijay Ashram in Pune has been supported for its work processing urban biowaste using black soldier fly technology.
That's fascinating.
It shows how national funding is successfully catalyzing grassroots, specialized innovation, moving away from purely IT services toward physical, applied, deep tech solutions.
Before we wrap up, we have to acknowledge the broader market context of late 2025. While India and Maharashtra are aggressively building globally, the tech industry saw significant turbulence.
The tech industry globally faced a severe correction in October 2025. It was a brutal month. Reports noted it was the worst October for coders in 22 years, with over 153,000 positions eliminated in American companies alone.
Wow.
This surge was driven by two factors: accelerating AI integration, which made certain routine roles redundant, and slowing global demand.
That global contraction poses a serious challenge to Maharashtra's local job market, despite all the policy momentum. What does the state's employment data look like in this environment?
Total employment in Maharashtra was 8.471 million in 2023, showing a slight increase from 8.224 million in 2022. While the figures show resilience, the global environment demands aggressive, proactive skilling efforts.
And the state is
Responding at scale. Programs like the Pramod Mahajan Kashaya Ujujakata Vikas Abhiyan enrolled nearly 116,000 candidates in 2024. That volume demonstrates the sheer scale of government skilling efforts underway to keep the talent pipeline full and relevant.
It really paints a picture of a state simultaneously playing catch-up on old problems, the decade of Hinjawadi neglect, while aggressively positioning itself for the next generation of deep tech dominance. To summarize our deep dive for you, the picture of Maharashtra in 2025 is one of intense defensive and offensive strategy. It is fighting an intense competitive battle on two fronts. It is tackling critical infrastructure failure head-on most publicly in Pune's Hinjawadi, where the deputy CM is personally monitoring fixes every 2 weeks to prevent companies from fleeing.
To Hyderabad and Bengaluru. At the same time, the state is laying down these aggressive new policy frameworks to attract high-value, future-proof investment.
Right.
This includes the major compliance simplification push through decriminalization, the creation of the GCC Policy 2025, and arguably the most powerful tool, the radical data center land and tax benefits.
And those benefits are huge. 100% stamp duty exemption on land purchases.
And the unprecedented permission to build in any zone, including residential or green zones.
Furthermore, the state is strategically linking its innovation ecosystem and research agenda directly to the massive national deep tech RDI scheme,
which ensures that capital is readily available for these highly specialized futuristic sectors like quantum computing, robotics, and applied AI.
The overall environment is designed to leverage Maharashtra's existing strength as the leader in FDI and startups to secure future economic dominance.
And the underlying policy narrative, especially surrounding the data center classification as an essential service, explicitly tells the IT industry that speed of economic growth trumps literally everything else.
Even traditional spatial and zoning constraints.
Exactly. All in order to rapidly deploy digital infrastructure.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Maharashtra's strategy is built on maximizing economic velocity. But given the immense resources required by data centers, especially water and power, and the simultaneous strain on urban centers already scrambling to fix basic issues like traffic and drainage, can Maharashtra's aggressive push for economic velocity truly outpace the infrastructure crises it is already scrambling to fix?
Or will these new policies simply relocate the infrastructure crisis?
Trading Pune's decade of traffic jams for localized energy and noise headaches in the residential neighborhoods, now legally allowed to host a massive, high-demand data center.
That's the critical trade-off, the balance between speed and sustainability at the heart of Maharashtra's 2025 strategy. We leave you with that question to mull over.
Until next time, on The Deep Dive.